Hello, and thanks for joining us on this week's episode of For All Things Lexington, the only show dedicated to Lexington, South Carolina, and where a spade is always called a spade. Here, we'll talk to and about people, places, groups, things to do, and places to go in and around Lexington, South Carolina. I'm your host, Angela Barrett, and this is For All Things Lexington. Hey, Carol, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited. So you have a book out called Family Reborn.
Yes.
So first tell me what the book's about.
It's an inspirational fiction, and it's about a young woman, Crystal, who has had to return home due to circumstances. And she's a young single mother now, and she's returned home. She had gotten away from her faith, and she returned home to live with her parents, and she wants nothing to do with men, marriage, any of that because of what has happened to her. And she's trying to get her life back together and return to her faith. And, you know, she's struggling with all of her past problems and getting her life right. And she's beginning to grow in herself and her strength again, and she has very strong parents who have forgiven her and are helping her to grow. And it's also the story of Franklin, a young minister in his early 30s who has his first church where he is the head minister. And he is excited to finally be head minister because he didn't expect to have a church so early. But he is struggling because every woman in the church is either throwing themselves at him or throwing their daughters and granddaughters and nieces at him. And he has no interest in getting married. His interest is leading his flock.
Right.
So you have two young people who are not trying to get together, but God has other plans. But sometimes when God is planning, the devil tries to throw a wrench into things.
Yes.
And this is sort of the story of what happens when all these things are going on. And it's a little bit of struggle. It's a lot about faith. It's a little bit of funny things in there.
Sure.
But underlying all of it is a lesson in forgiveness, because what each of the characters in the book has to learn is they have things in their lives that they haven't forgiven, and how to forgive and move forward.
Now, how did you come up with this storyline, or did it just progress? Or
I wrote the basis of this one year when I did the November NaNoWrite. So I wrote the basis of it then, put it in a drawer because I still had a young son at home. I was still working a job that I worked 40 to 50 hours a week.
Right.
So I had no time to really deal with writing and perfecting a novel. And when I retired, I said, now is my time. I pulled it out. I really started from square one and restructured the whole thing. And it became a whole new story, and this is what it turned into.
And so this has been a book in the making, so how long?
Maybe 15 years.
Oh, wow. And it was actually published, what year?
2021.
21, okay. Now, what about the photo on here, the church? Is that...
It's just, I had an idea in my mind of just the young woman returning with her child back to the church.
Yeah, beautiful church.
Yeah.
So now what inspired you in the very beginning to even say, hey, I want to write a book?
I have been writing since I was 7. I loved reading, and I think I was about 3 when I started reading little books.
Right.
And as I got older, I read and read and read. And this one day I told my mother, I don't have anything to read. And I mean, I was reading everything in the house I could get my hands on. Sure. That I was of a level my mother would let me read.
Right.
And she was really busy. She was a work-at-home mom at that time. And she said, I don't have time to read to you. Find something. I said, I can't find anything. You know how kids whine.
Sure.
She said, fine, go write a story. And that was the beginning of it.
Huh. But you've written other things that have been published. You've poems.
I have a number of poems that have been published in anthologies through the years. My favorite that's been published was I wrote a poem for a friend's daughter when she got married. Mm-hmm. And I did it quickly because they needed something for the back of the program. And I quickly, in a couple of days, wrote a poem. We put it on the back of the program. And a few years later, I got married and I rewrote it. I went in depth and rewrote it more quickly, more in depth, I should say, from my heart.
Right.
And it became the back of our program for my wedding.
And what's the name of that poem?
It's One Heart, One Way.
All right. Now, is it long? Is it too long, or is it?
I did not bring it with me, unfortunately. I should have done that.
It's okay.
But, oh, wait a minute. I believe I brought the book, so I do have it. Okay. I wasn't thinking. It's not real long.
Okay.
One heart and one way. Today we join our lives and commit to one heart and one way. We commit to the joining of our hearts and our souls and our minds. We commit to a relationship of friendship as well as love. We vow to take our marriage one step at a time and one day at a time. We vow to begin the resolution of each problem with prayer. We vow as well a prayer of thanksgiving for each blessing we receive. We pledge to meet each problem with patience and resolve it with love. We pledge to be considerate of one another as we always try to be kind to each other. We pledge our lives for always as today we become one heart and one way.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And we've tried to live that way in our marriage. Sure. And so far, for the most part, we've succeeded.
Oh, well, good. And you've been married how long?
It will be 27 years this June.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, you're not originally from here. You're from Maryland, right?
Yes, I'm basically from Maryland.
Okay. And you guys moved down here to Lexington when?
In 2020.
In 2020. And now what made y'all come here?
We wanted to get away from the snow. We had had enough of the snow.
I hear that a lot. Yeah, I bet. And so you just throw a dart and Lexington's it, or?
I had been, thinking for years, if we, retired and moved somewhere, where did I want to go? I wanted to come here. My husband wanted to go to Florida. And, we went back and forth, and I sort of.
Yeah, sure. Good man. He knows how to stay out of trouble. So now the book you were just reading out about the poem, is that a book that you did?
This is one of the anthologies that my poetry was published in.
I gotcha.
So I haven't always been able to afford purchasing each of the anthologies because some of those can get pretty pricey. But I have managed to have a couple of them, to keep a couple of them, and that was one of them.
Now, you've had at least one, and maybe more, short stories published as well.
Yes. Writer's Digest in 2019, in their writing contest, I was given an honorable mention for one of my stories. I'm sorry, not that one. I get sometimes things mixed up.
You've done a lot.
A Moment in Time.
A Moment
that
in
one,
Time.
Yes.
I gotcha. Now, where would, if somebody wanted to go purchase this, where would they find this?
Family Reborn is available on Amazon, both in Kindle version and paperback.
Okay. And as far as your poems and your short stories as well, they would find that where?
Mostly they would need to come to me and I could get them a copy of those. Most of those now have gone out of print.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't keep the anthologies around for long, except some of them are in libraries in different places.
I gotcha. Now, I think you and I were at one point, you said something about being a beta writer.
Beta reader.
Oh, beta reader. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And that's for other writers.
Yes. Whenever a writer is in the process of creating a new short story, novel, whatever they're doing,
Right.
when they get it to a certain point, they need to have other eyes on it.
Sure.
And I do that for a lot of other writers.
And so when you're reading those, what are you looking for? What are they looking for? General feedback, or they need grammar, or
Sometimes they'll give you a list.
oh, okay.
Because some of them have specific questions they have on their writing. They want to know, is my character developed enough? Are my descriptions good enough? So sometimes they'll give you a specific list. I want to know these things. Plus, you read through just to see how it flows. But you're basically reading through to see, is the story holding your interest?
Right.
Does it have weak spots?
Sure.
Or is it losing your interest? And, you just give your feedback in a nice way to promote their writing, not to tear them down.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because, there's a lot of writers groups online, and we all get together to help each other. And every once in a while, you get a person who doesn't know how to do that nicely.
Sure.
And it really hurts. The people will say how much it's hurt them when someone gives that critical way. So we try to be very careful how we tell a person something. We want to tell them, this is sort of slowing your work down. Let's see if we can do so and so and so, that this will help bring it up. So you always want to do something to be positive, to help that writer move forward.
Sure. Now, you also have a YouTube channel called Carol's Corner.
Yes, Carol's
All right,
Corner
so
short stories.
Yes, tell about that.
I go on Carol's Corner short stories, and I read my short stories that I've written. And that's just sort of a way to get my short stories out there for other people to hear them, because they're just little snippets of things that I write that are not really going to ever be published anywhere unless I do a big book of short stories.
Sure.
Or something down the road, which right now I haven't planned to do, but I'd like people to just have something fun to do sometime.
Now, this is for children or adults, or
For
both?
adults.
Okay.
They're mainly adult stories.
And the short stories might consist of?
One of my short stories, it was a fun story. I wrote it for a writers group I was involved in Denton, Maryland, and it was Attraction. So the story was all about a young man, and as he was walking to work, he saw something in the window, and he saw this beautiful auburn hair, and it just stopped him. And every day when he walked past, he would just have to stop and look and he just said, okay, today is the day. I'm going in. And he walks in, and he walks up to the counter, and he asked the person at the counter, he said, is that little puppy in the window for sale? But it was
cute.
It was days and days of him looking at the window
Sure.
and describing this auburn hair. And you think he's talking about this woman and building up to asking this woman out. And then he asked for this puppy. And everybody in my class, by the time I read the end, fell out because they just were not expecting that.
Sure. Yeah. No, I didn't either.
So sometimes little things, I get these things in my head, and
Yeah. Well, that's what makes a good writer.
So not all of my stories are romance and
right.
Serious. Sometimes I just write things for fun.
Right. Now, you and your husband are both retired now, right?
Yes.
And so, speaking of fun, what do you guys do outside of writing, which I guess takes a lot of time? What do you guys do for fun around Lexington or anywhere, I guess?
Well, we're sort of stay-at-homes. Our big thing is we love to work in our yard, especially my husband.
Yeah.
And so right now we've been doing a lot of gardening and working with our flowers and things. Mm-hmm. I love to do crocheting. And I'm working with a group in the church that I've been going to. And they're donating the goods that people crochet and knit and do other forms of work to different groups that need them, like hospitals. They have the infant caps and burp blankets and things like that. They give to the hospitals for the infants and preemies, and they take a lot of the Afghans to the nursing homes. And one lady does something that I had never seen before and I thought was amazing. They take the plastic grocery bags, cut them into strips, and crochet them together and make sleeping mats for the homeless. They're waterproof.
Out of grocery bags?
Yes, they found it, I think, on YouTube or somewhere.
Okay.
So that was amazing to me.
Absolutely.
So, yes. So I was real happy I just found them a couple of weeks ago, and I just went to my first meeting. So it's wonderful. I had accumulated a large amount of Afghans, so I'm starting to donate those to them. And so I was glad to get involved with them because I love to crochet.
Yeah.
I do.
So you said you have started one of these with the plastic bags?
No, I don't do that. I don't do that part.
It has to be hard.
Yes, I imagine. I haven't seen her doing it yet, but this week they were cutting and doing the pieces.
Much less with a slippery plastic bag.
Yeah. I can't wait.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait to see her do it.
Yeah. So now, as far as you said something about a garden, are y'all planting vegetables or mainly? Okay.
Yes, we're going to have this year tomatoes, the regular and the little baby tomatoes, the little, I forget what you call them. Cherry tomatoes, and squash, and sweet peppers, and what else? Oh, and my husband's trying to see if he can get watermelons to grow.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah.
But just a couple of plants of each, nothing too. Just trying.
I was going to say, well, you're kind of like us. I mean, there's two of you. So there's not so much unless
Well, three, my son.
Oh, well, that's your son still
He's
lives
still
there.
with us.
I gotcha. And he is, now, where does he work again?
He is doing work from home.
Okay. I thought the last time we talked, I couldn't remember if he was still there or not. Now you have a new book you're starting.
Yes.
All right. So, can you give us a little tidbit? I don't want to give away everything, but
this is a different book. This is a contemporary book. This is a mother's story, and it's a book about a mother whose daughter is missing, and she is hearing her daughter calling her, and everyone has said it's reached the point everyone has said that her daughter is gone now, but she hears her daughter in her dreams, and she believes her daughter is alive.
Now, where did the inspiration, or where did you get the idea for that? I mean, are you just standing in the shower one day and go, oh, that would be a good book?
They literally, I'll sit down and they just come to me. Things come to me. I can be washing dishes and something will come to me. Things just come in my mind. I can take a word and start a story and write something that will be the outline for a book. When I worked with the writers group in Denton, we would have a word each meeting.
Sure.
And we would create a short story from that. Well, many of my short stories from that, I have been able to start the basis that can be novels. I have a number. I like to write what's called the mail order bride novels, the romances. And I have about 8 of those that are just the beginning of a short story now, but I know down the road I'm going to turn those into I guess novelettes you would call them. They're not as long as a novel, but they're way longer than a short story.
Sure, sure. Now, how far are you in this book that you're writing now?
I have a full outline of it.
Oh,
now I just have to go in and flesh it out.
Right, right. And so when do you think that'll be ready for publish?
Right now, I would say it's probably another year or two down the road.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Because it takes a while to write a book.
And the subject matter is what's hard, because everything keeps changing, and to make it current and make it not seem out of date.
Sure.
Because when I started the idea for it and then I put it down and I wound up writing this one, everything has changed in missing children.
Oh, yes.
And you don't want to write it to where it's out of date.
Right.
To where people will say, oh, well, that's not.
Right.
So now I'm trying to keep up, and I have to do so much research. And I do the research, and now it's all changing again.
Right.
So now I'm having to research a lot again.
There was an author I used to follow, and never had the opportunity to meet her, unfortunately. But I do remember, reading her story about her books, and she actually traveled to the different places so that she would actually know what she was talking about, not just taking it from Google or wherever. So I did find that. But you're right, there's a lot of research that goes into it behind that.
Even with Family Reborn, I was lucky, having worked at a law firm. I took the bits and pieces with the court scenes and things and sent them to attorneys I work with to read through them and make sure that the deposition parts and the court parts were specific enough and real enough that people wouldn't say, oh, that I don't believe that.
Right.
That, even if they said they didn't believe them, that they were real and would pass someone who worked in a court, was a criminal attorney. Right. Or not a criminal. He did criminal and family law, so he knew what actually happened in a court and how it would work.
Right. And because, there's times like a television show, you're like, that cannot be real. So I get it. You do want to make sure. Now, do you have any groups here in Lexington, or have you ever thought about starting like a writing group here in Lexington?
There is one I know of, but I haven't really joined with them yet, because the times they meet and some of the things that they're doing, I'm not ready to make the commitment to work with them yet.
You should start your own, though. I mean, people could learn a lot.
Some of the writers that are out there, I'm still here and they're there.
I don't know. I think you're being awful humble. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to the next one. And again, let's see, if anybody wants to get in touch with you about maybe they need a poem for their wedding, or they want you to come talk about your book or do a book signing, they need to email you, right? And
yes.
All right. And so it's Carol, I want to make sure I get this right, Carol24737@gmail.com.
That's right.
And of course, I guess through your YouTube channel, there's a way to get in touch with you there, right?
I'm not sure through YouTube. They can still go through my website. I'm in the process of updating my website, but they can still check me out through my website, which is my name, Carol A. Selman. So I'll spell it out just in case. CAROLE A. Selman, SELLMAN.com. And they can contact me through there too. So
okay,
that's two ways.
Yeah, great. Well, I certainly appreciate you coming and being here today. This has been a lot of fun, and I know we have been talking about your book for a while now, and I can't wait to read this one. I haven't had a chance yet, and can't wait for the next one too. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and we hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to be a guest on our show or have a person, business, charity, organization, idea, or an event that Lexington needs to know more about, email us. local@forallthingslexington.com. That's local@4 allthingslexington.com.
This episode was brought to you by the real estate agents at Home Matters, building on service, relationships, and on what matters to you. Find out how you matter and how they can help you with buying and selling your home at homematterssc.com.